The Tennessee Titans are on the clock. It's official. Final score from Nissan Stadium in the regular season finale. The Houston Texans 23, the Titans 14. Another final score of importance. The New England Patriots 23, the Buffalo Bills 16. That secures the number one overall pick for the Titans for the first time in nearly a decade. And we are here to take your reaction and pretty much kick off, guys, what's going to be a discussion for the next few months about what the Titans are going to do. Dr. Kevin Dyson, Zach Lyons, I'm Lucas Panzica. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in on Titans Talkback, presented by Lee Company. All you need, visit them online at leecompany.com.
Hey, man. It's my last time to talk about this, so I'm excited but sad at the same time. First and foremost, for me, happy Founders Day to the wonderful brothers of Kappa Alpha Psi Incorporated. Man, I think one thing that you can take from this is you got your answer in indefinite of is the quarterback on this roster that's your quarterback of the future. I think you got your answer. I think that was solidified. I think when the news came out that both would play, you can make the assumption that they were evaluating both and who's coming back, if both of them are coming back or neither of them coming back. I think from what you saw today, I think you can almost make the assumption that neither of them will probably be here for next year. And that's not to say that they played terrible by any stretch of imagination. It just wasn't dynamic. And if you're looking to make a move, make a change, I think at the quarterback position, I think you want something that's dynamic. And not to say whoever comes in is going to just all of a sudden be the savior and take us to the Super Bowl and things of that nature. I just think based on what we saw today, I mean, they got outclassed by the other team's backup today. He played better than both of them, and that's a fair assessment. And that's not to say that both of them are terrible. It's just today they got outplayed by the backup quarterback for the other team. And so if you're a franchise trying to go move forward and try to do something impactful, that's the number one position that you start with. So we're gonna start this. This is the lead into the 25 off season. I'm sure we're going to talk about the draft. We're going to talk about a whole bunch of free agency possibilities and things of that nature. But that was one thing that was made evidently clear. Other than that, man, it was ups and downs. You know, there was times when the defense looked like they were really engaged and really involved, and then there was some lulls in there, giving up the big runs and not being able to get the field on third down. And again, there was some milestones made where Ridley got his 1,000 yards and Pollard was close, and we got the touchdown there late the game, the Hail Mary. Basically, he just threw it up there and somebody came down with it. It was fortunate. But, you know, it just was a kind of a microcosm of the season. It was some good, but the bad kind of over highlights some of the good things that you do on a game or play to play.
Yeah, I mean, Mock Draft Monday coming up. Y'all do Mock Draft Wednesday, though, right? That doesn't really have the same flow as Mock Draft Monday, by the way.
Well,
we got to work on the branding.
It's typically been Mock Draft Monday, just been fending it off for weeks on weeks, but no avoiding it here.
Yeah, I mean, it's time. It's here. I think the weather was appropriate for this game.
Doom and gloom.
Let me say something. Props to they showed a couple of people up in the 300 section. Props to the one guy who came with no friends or no family members, but he was up at the very top. Now, dude, there's nobody else in your section. You could have moved down.
Yeah.
But props to those fans.
That's loyalty right there.
Yeah,
man.
I mean, I wouldn't have done it.
I feel them though, man. There's only 32 cities that have a team. You know what I mean? And so if you put it in that perspective, man, you gotta support. And again, because there's only 32 of them. It's not like they're in every city across the country. There's only 32 seats. So, you know, and then the season's over. So now you wishing you were in a city that you can be in where they're still playing ball.
And people had their bags over their head with Shadur Sanders on the on the bag and everything. Look, it's going to be interesting. There's all kinds of hypotheticals, but I think the one, like you said, the one thing we got to answer was that Will Levis is not the guy. Yeah. Obviously, Mason Rudolph was never going to be the guy, but he's also shouldn't be on this roster either. You're going to have a totally new quarterback room, and you're going to have to add some more pieces around the offensive line, all that kind of stuff. But really, the bigger question is, Okay, they lost in the Oilers uniforms, lost to the Houston Texans. Did Amy Armstrong come in with a plan that she knew what she was going to do? Like she knew whether she was going to keep everybody or fire everybody. And if she's going to keep everybody, did this game, for whatever reason, change her mind? Or did getting the number one overall pick change her mind? Like, there's a good possibility here that if someone's in her ear, they're like, hey, we got the number one overall pick. You could start, clean house, start anew, refresh. And again, I'm not recommending that personally, for this team. I think you should just run it back with everybody else. But that is something that owners kind of think about. And sometimes they change their mind on a dime. So it'll be really interesting because the reports have been kind of like lukewarm support from the inside the building for the coaching staff, and even less, probably colder than lukewarm for Rand Carthon right now and Chad Brinker. So it'll be interesting to see what happens because we got number one overall pick here. You need a quarterback. What do you do? The last three teams that did a new head coach, new GM, and new quarterback has been the Patriots, the Commanders, and oh my gosh, I'm blanking. The Bears.
Oh, a new quarterback also.
Yeah, new quarterback too. So mixed results, but they all seemingly have their quarterback of the future.
Well, did the Bears do it, or Ryan Poles was already in place as the general manager?
Yeah, you got me there.
So it is rare.
Well, Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus were both there at the same time.
Yes.
So so I guess not new.
They may have done it with Fields. Did they do it with Fields that year you talking about?
No, Fields would have been drafted.
Yeah.
Poles was not there when
That's my bad.
He was
You're
not
correct.
the GM.
So take the Bears out of there.
It is rare. It's more rare than people think. I mean,
Right.
because that's been such a big discussion around here. Like, oh, can't they just get on the same timeline? And then you look around, you could probably count on one hand the franchises in the NFL that have a head coach and a general manager that were hired in the same offseason. The Commanders were a special case, right? Because that was all the way up to the owner. I mean, they had a blank canvas to work with last year. And you hit on the quarterback, make some other smart moves, a veteran head coach, and you've seen the results. So that's going to be the fascinating thing, guys, about the next few months is the variety of opinions from Titans fans on which quarterback they should draft, if they should draft a quarterback, if they should trade back, what they should do in terms of retention, whether it's Callahan or Carthon or Chad Brinker, a million different ways that a million different fans are going to want the franchise to go this offseason. So it's going to be a very interesting next few months, and we're pretty much kicking it off here on Titans Talkback, presented by Lee Company. All you need, visit them online at leecompany.com. We're going to get to your phone calls. You can also jump in on the F&M Bank chat, 1045 The Zone TV, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. Much to discuss as the Titans fall 23-14 to Houston, finishing the 2024 season 3-14. Your phone calls when we come back. This is Titans Talkback, presented by Lee Company on 1045 The Zone. Titans fall to the Houston Texans at home 23-14 to finish out the regular season at 3-14. And officially, the Tennessee Titans will have the number 1 overall pick in the 2025 NFL Draft. This is Titans Talkback, presented by Lee Company, who the Titans trust to tackle their HVAC, plumbing, and electrical problems at Nissan Stadium. They can protect your home, too. Your next play? Visit LeeCompany.com. Lee Company, all you need. Dr. Kevin Dyson, Zach Lyons, I'm Lucas Panzica. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in. A week ago, Zach, you said, regardless of where the Titans pick, whether it's second or first, they could have dropped all the way to 7 or 8 today with how other games were playing out. You said, we're going to start hearing a lot, and you can pretty much ignore everything that you're going to hear right up until draft time. But here it comes. Benjamin Albright, who is a Broncos insider, but also general NFL reporter. The game hadn't even gone final, guys, and he tweeted at 3:04 p.m., Titans are rumored to love Cam Ward.
Which we already know is false by local reporting. So good job, Benjamin Albright, on always being wrong,
so
right? I mean, like, very rarely right.
Here we go. It'll be an interesting few months. Let's go to the phones and lead off with Eric, as we typically do on Titans Talk Back. Hey, Eric.
Hey, guys. Happy New Year to you.
Hey, New Year, man.
Hey, guys, here's an interesting thing that happened today, guys, and I told this to your call screener. Do you realize of all the early NFL games, we were the only game where we never tied and never led? Every other NFL game that was on today, it was either lead changes back and forth, even between good, bad teams and two bad teams or whatever it was. And even tied, we were the only one that was never really in the game where we were threatening like we were going to win. That tells you how bad we are. Because even the Chicago Bears, who had a 10-game losing streak, won today at Green Bay. So, you know. That's the frustrating thing to me about this, guys, and also the fact that you had Derek Barnett celebrating on the field touchdown and players coming off the bench celebrating with him, showing shots of the fans in the crowd with bags over there. Even the commentator saying, you know, with the Shedeur sensors, well, I'm surprised that bag's not more worn or wetter where it's tearing. I mean, come on. I mean, stuff like that. That is just bad when you hear stuff like that, guys. It's just, I just want us to be competitive. And, guys, as far as the draft, you know, whether it's Shedeur Sanders, whether it's Travis Hunter, trade down the pick, I just hope it's something that's going to help this team because we need help at several different places. And I hope all the fans that are happy that want us to lose are happy that we got the number 1 pick. And I know, guys, whether it's fair or not, not on the speculation, we're definitely going to hear about jokes about this organization, about us having the number 1 draft pick. So we'll see what happens. Guys, as always, good to talk to you. I'll talk to you again next year. Tighten up. We'll talk again soon.
Thanks, Eric.
You know, I'm looking at this draft order. It's interesting. The top 3 picks. If we're making the assumption that quarterback is the pick of the choice, the top 3 picks seemingly will be in that conversation for what is turning out to be a 2-man race for the top quarterback. And
not to mention the 6th and the 7th. You got the Jets and the Raiders as well. They will be looking to trade up. So there will be, because if you play your cards right.
Yeah.
And people think that you are going to want a quarterback, which they likely will play their cards right and think that no matter who's in the regime, Cleveland could possibly wait, but can the Giants wait? And then can Cleveland wait on the Giants to make a move before they decide what they're going to do? Like, there's going to be a little bit of a bidding war there because with, you know,
Cleveland has the number 2 pick for context.
So it goes Tennessee, Cleveland, New York Giants, then it's the Patriots and the Jaguars. And then you have the Jets and the Raiders. Jets and Raiders need that too. So could be a bidding war for the number 1 overall pick, depending on how the offseason goes.
And that is not set in stone. Jets are in action right now against the Dolphins. They're losing 6-0 in what is a pivotal game for a lot of playoff implications in the late afternoon slate that we'll keep you updated with. Denver looking to go win and in against the Chiefs. They're up 14-0 at home. Bengals need both Broncos and Dolphins to lose their games after winning last night over the Steelers. So we'll keep you up to date with all of that. But to your point, KD, Browns at number 2, need at quarterback. Deshaun Watson's had to restructure his contract. He's still under contract for next year, but we all understand how that experience has gone. Giants at 3, need a quarterback. Patriots at 4, have their guy in Drake May, although it was all about Joe Milton today. I mean...
Maybe you trade your pick for Drake May since they found a franchise quarterback in Joe Milton.
How about that, man? 22 of 29, 241 yards, 2 total touchdowns, no turnovers. Hey, he was wheeling and dealing out there. The best play he made all game got called back because of a holding.
Yeah.
He was remarkable today for the Patriots.
And they won't be in there, assuming they're not going to be in that conversation for QB.
No,
not at all.
So, but again, that was a franchise similarly over the last year has been in a similar spot to where the Titans are. And thinking through that, which they have drafted 2 guys in the past 4 years, I think it has been. That's about 4 years, right?
Yeah.
4
Mac
years.
Jones.
Mac Jones.
Yeah, I think so.
About 4 years. Of course, that was a different regime with Mac Jones. But that being said, it just goes to show you there's no guaranteed formula. You just got, I think you said it last week, Zach, maybe you, Lucas, where you got to, the way the NFL is, you kind of got to keep picking that guy until you find that guy. And when you're talking about quarterback.
Yeah. And look, I mean, you look at a guy like Drake May or Jaden Daniels or Caleb Williams. I mean, none of those, even Bo Nix, none of those guys were drafted into good situations.
No.
I mean, they were situations that got better when they got the quarterback, but also, well, except for the Patriots, but essentially got better. And their surroundings got better because they spent another player acquisition cycle. Same with C.J. Stroud. C.J. Stroud in the Texans had one of the worst situations in the NFL when it comes to offensive line, rushing, receiving, core, and defense. And then you get C.J. Stroud, you make a couple other moves in the offseason and right before you draft him, and everything turns around for you. Like, it's not, you don't have to wait to draft a quarterback. You don't have to wait for your surroundings to be perfect to draft a quarterback. Yeah. Joe Burrow is another example. Joe Burrow came into a terrible situation at the Bengals. I mean, like Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins, who was still, just coming on, and he was getting injured. Joe Mixon was okay, but that rushing attack has never been efficient. Offensive line was terrible. Defense wasn't good.
Terrible. Yeah.
So, you don't have to wait for the surroundings to be perfect to get a quarterback.
Yeah.
That's a mistake. If you have conviction on a quarterback, just don't force a quarterback.
Yeah. The big if. 615-737-1045. Back to the phones. Marcus in Nashville's next. Hey, Marcus.
What's going on, y'all? Happy New Year. I am so glad this season is over. Jesus, I tell you, it's been a long ride, man. It's been a long ride, but I swear, I was listening to the post-game show, and I listened to Will Levis talk, and that man says, God can fix a lot of things, but he can't fix stupid. He can't fix stupid. That boy said, if they give me more responsibilities, I'll be even better. Man, we was clapping for you just to learn how to slide. Come on, man. You're supposed to learn that at T-ball. I'm sorry. That boy, he's gonna never take nothing under the chin. I mean, you sitting there doing commercials, doing the dials and food, doing the splits with mayo and, oh, Lord. I tell you, we got to just make a pick. Listen, we got a stadium coming up. You got to sell tickets. This is a business at the end of the day. You got to get somebody who's going to put some fans in that seat, man. We make one wrong move here, we're going to lose a lot of people, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for the call, Marcus. Yeah, Will Levis today, 9 of 17, 175 yards and a touchdown. He did get credited with the fumble on the play that was a handoff to Bryce Oliver.
They gave it to him?
They gave the fumble to Levis.
It went right into Bryce Young's shoulder.
I know. Bryce Oliver.
Bryce Oliver,
I thought it was a little harsh. Yeah,
I guess because he never possessed it, I guess is why.
I think that's probably why. But Derek Barnett just blew that play up and was a scoop and score that made it 23-6.
Also, you got to put it in the bread basket. I mean, that's like quarterback in 101. Turn around and hand the ball off to someone, put it in their, don't put it at their shoulder.
But look, Will Levis said all the things you expect him to say in the locker room post-game, right? That he believes he can be the franchise quarterback for this team. He wants to be the franchise quarterback.
He's supposed to say that, right?
Of course. And he is under contract for the next 2 years. But are you guys of the mindset of...
Next few months, when he's on someone else's team.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Are you of the mindset of... I know where you kind of stand on this, Zach. You kind of just said it. But, KD, I'm curious about you from the player perspective that when it's over at the quarterback position... that it's over. Do you see a scenario where Will Levis is back and under contract in training camp next year for the Titans?
Wow. No. I was trying to think through a possible scenario where you bring in another guy and you say you let him battle it out. I think if that had been Vrabel being the head coach and he was returning, then that would be the mindset. I think you said, we bring in another guy. I think they would maybe consider that. But since this is not quote unquote Callahan's guy, I don't think that's the case. Because especially how the last part of the season took place with how he was handled. He was benched, brought in, split duty today to see who's better. And, whether are they deciding who's staying, who's going, that sort of thing. So I don't think so. I think they're going to count their losses and make a move one way or another, whether it be a guy like Kirk Cousins or something that's out there that maybe he has something left in his tank that you bring in, and a rookie. I don't know, but I don't think, based on what I saw today or the last probably month of the season, I think they're going to sever their ties.
I mean, there's always a scenario. It can always happen.
Yeah.
But I think
you never say never.
Yeah, the likely scenario is that none of these quarterbacks are back next year.
Yeah.
And that's probably the best scenario, too. Not only is it the likely scenario, it's probably the best case scenario.
Well, I think for the fans especially,
Yeah.
I think they are, I mean, again, they don't make decisions for fans. They're not making decisions. They're making business decisions. And what's best for business right now, and part of that business is ticket sales and things of that nature. That's part of business. I mean, whether we want to admit that or not, that is part of the business. But also is winning. That's a big part of professional sports, is winning football games. Now, there's only a handful of people that do that. We've highlighted that over the years, over the weeks. But essentially, though, you in this business of being competitive, winning football games with a chance to go Super Bowl, and they're not there and haven't been there in a long time. And I think from a fan's perspective, it's I forget business. Let's get some people in here.
Well, and flush 2024 down the drain, right? I mean, like some of that is, when you do spring cleaning, you're trying to get rid of stuff that you've had for forever.
Yeah.
Like, let's say you got dumped and you want to get rid of everything your ex bought you that reminds you of your ex. That's what you need to do with the quarterback room. You need to get rid of everything that reminds you of that quarterback room.
Yep.
615-737-1045 is how you jump in. This is Titans Talkback, presented by Lee Company. All you need, visit them online at leecompany.com. Back to the phones when we return on 104.5 The Zone. So Black Monday, as they call it, the Monday after the end of the regular season, where coaches, general managers alike typically get fired in the NFL. That begins in approximately 7.5 hours. The New England Patriots have gotten a head start. According to Adam Schefter, literally 1 minute ago, the Patriots have fired head coach Gerard Mayo after 1 year in charge, succeeding Bill Belichick and winning their regular season finale against the Bills, which in turn clinched the number 1 overall pick for the Titans. Guys, the first move has been made a lot sooner than everybody thought. I mean, I don't even know if
he played there, so that.
Oh, yeah, you're talking about a legacy guy in a New England lifer.
A guy that they believed in and put it in a clause in his contract that he would be the next head coach.
Yeah.
Yes, correct.
I mean, that is insane.
Which is why the Vrabel trade was never even in the cards to the Patriots.
So what was the relationship with him and the GM?
I believe good. I mean, I think Elliot Wolf was hired from within. I'll double check that.
That's correct.
So, I mean, they kind of know each other.
He was director of scouting when Belichick was essentially calling the shots. And
I got you.
Yeah. Look, I mean, most players across the NFL in the noon slate aren't even home yet from the stadium, and we already have the first firing of the 2024 season.
I mean, that is you won that game. We're done with you. We needed to be number 1, and now we're what? They are now number 4.
Correct.
So, man, that is insane.
Which to me, for again, now who am I? I'm making my opinions off of a team I've watched only a couple times. They drafted a quarterback, so I'm assuming 4 is not a bad spot for them.
Well, and I wonder how much of this is, owners are, like we have said, they're emotional creatures. Yeah. They are fans. Mike Vrabel interviewed at your rival, the New York Jets. He's a former.
Look at this conspiracy theorist over here.
I'm just saying. But also, like, if you're the Patriots, do you want to go from Bill Belichick to Gerard Mayo to Mike Vrabel? They're all kind of the same
Keep that
attitude.
DNA on the same line.
Yeah, it's the same DNA. It's the same situation. Now, listen, Mike Vrabel is obviously probably better than Gerard Mayo, but we've never really seen Mike Vrabel revamp a franchise.
Right.
Because I was kind of talking about this the other day. We were like, well, some people downplay his culture building. Well, he didn't have to build a culture here. That culture was built. There was established veterans from the Mike Mularkey era. He took over a playoff team.
Yeah.
And there were established veterans. There were Jarrell Casey, Kevin Byard, Delaney Walker. You had a bunch of guys throughout this roster when he took over.
They had the king.
Yeah.
In his prime.
Ben Jones. Like, how does he handle the situation up in New England where they're devoid of talent? They have a young quarterback, so at least you got that, but you don't know really what the ceiling of the young quarterback is. You have no run game. You barely have a defense put together, no offensive line, and we've seen that he cannot build an offensive line unless it's, set up pretty easy for him.
Yeah.
It's a unique situation. Everybody's like, well, Vrabel, Patriots, duh. But is that really the best fit for either team?
Yeah.
For either him or the Patriots? That's the other thing is, it's maybe not even a good fit for Vrabel.
Well, there will be no name mentioned more with the Patriots job than Mike Vrabel for the next few days, weeks, however long.
Listen, there's no name mentioned. Like, I'm so sick of the media. Yeah. I mean, now they're running with the same, trade rumors where there are some staff that are with established coaches that some teams are going to fire their coach to have a chance at Mike Vrabel. No one's going to really do that. I mean, they didn't do it last year, and that's what everybody said last year. Yeah. Mike Vrabel deserves a second chance. I just don't know about this cycle of job openings.
I think what it is people get enamored with the past, and they see somebody from the past that had some success, their Super Bowl champion and all the things, and he's out there, and is he able to be the quote-unquote clone of the success they've had before?
Yeah.
And again, and I'm dispelling Belichick being one of, if not the greatest head coach in National Football League history, just because of the wins and titles and things of that nature. But we saw a dramatic drop-off when Tom Brady left. And then Tom Brady went championship, Super Bowl, and the championship game in his short stint in Tampa. So to me, that solidified was the chicken and egg conversation. Was it the quarterback or the head coach? Because when the quarterback left, he still was successful.
I think it was like early success.
Yeah.
was Bill Belichick. Later success obviously fell more onto the quarterback because they had poor drafting. Like that was the thing about Bill Belichick. You know, he was in charge, and here we are talking about the Patriots, not even the Titans. But the Bill Belichick they were terrible at drafting for several years, and that's why the roster got so bad.
Well, they also became really good at free agents.
Right.
They were getting people for the bargains. And so I know we're talking about the Patriots, but it's all related because how do you build a roster, a quote unquote dynasty? As we watch the Chiefs in the background and what they're the midst of their dynasty right now, right? And what they have chosen to do is build it through the draft. They've let players go. We have one of them. You know what I mean? They have let people go in the sense to keep that synergy going and build around what they have is a franchise quarterback.
And does Vrabel want to go somewhere where he's not super familiar with the GM?
Right.
I mean, he's not very familiar with Elliott Wolf. They didn't cross paths throughout because
he wants to pick his
tenure.
own groceries.
And we know that he wants Ryan Cowden because that's what all we've heard in every rumor about Mike Vrabel is that I want Ryan Cowden. I want everybody on the staff and the GM, because this is what he said in that Athletic article. I want everybody to see the game the way I do. He's not open to other ideas, and we know that. He said, I want people to see the game the way that I do. If they fire Elliott Wolf, I'd be more apt to believe that, it's going to be Ryan Cowden and Mike Vrabel.
Well, here's the thing about that. Elliott Wolf's official title with the Patriots is Executive Vice President of Player Personnel.
Yeah.
That feels like a situation that could set up pretty nicely for Vrabel to just click into place and immediately have significant input on personnel moving forward. We'll see what happens. Again, if you're just joining us, the Patriots have fired officially head coach Gerard Mayo, winning on the way out of a one-and-done season, Lovie Smith style, a few years ago with the Houston Texans. Here's a statement from Mayo. After the game today, or from owner Robert Kraft, I should say. After the game today, I informed Gerard Mayo he will not be returning as the head coach of the New England Patriots in 2025. For me personally, this is one of the hardest decisions I have ever made. I've known Gerard 17 years. He earned my respect and admiration as a rookie in 2008 and throughout his career for his play on the field, his leadership in the locker room, and the way he conducted himself in our community. He goes on to say, when other teams started requesting to interview him, I feared I would lose him and committed to making him our next head coach. Winning our season opener on the road at Cincinnati only strengthened my convictions. Unfortunately, the trajectory of our team's performance throughout the season did not ascend that I had hoped. Goes on to say they have tremendous fans who deserve a better product than they have delivered in recent years. He apologizes for that and thanks Gerard and wishes him nothing but the best as the Patriots begin a coaching search. Before we get back to the phones, I saw a comment from Michael in the F&M Bank chat. It says, well, if Gerard Mayo is fired, Brian Callahan definitely is not safe. All the noise or lack thereof around the Titans and Brian Callahan is that there will not be a head coaching change made. We've got some audio from Adam Schefter that we'll play a little bit later for you, indicating that Brian Callahan more likely than not falls under the safe category as we get ready for Black Monday. We'll hear from Schefter a little bit later in the show. But first, let's go back to the phones and hear from Dylan in Antioch up next. Hey, Dylan.
Yes. What's up, guys? No one cares about Gerard freaking Mayo. No one cares. Why are you guys talking about it? Tell me, why are you guys talking about this?
Well, because we're a sports radio show, and that's pretty big news. No, we are. Listen, hey, Dylan, we are, so you don't get to talk over me. You asked a question, I get to answer it, right? Do I not get to answer it?
Okay, answer. Why are you talking about Gerard freaking Mayo? No one cares. No one in Nashville cares.
He's not even letting me answer. It's remarkable.
Okay, thanks for the call, Dylan.
Go ahead. Thank you. Well, I was going to say we're a sports talk show. It's breaking news. But this also, like you said, ties into what I believe Mike or someone said. This is kind of proof that things can change. This was Robert Kraft's handpicked successor to Bill Belichick. We know how this whole coaching search with Brian Callahan went down. It was Amy Adams Strunk and Rand Carthon making moves, moving quick to make sure that Brian Callahan didn't interview with Atlanta, didn't interview with the Panthers. So this is their handpicked guy too. No one is safe. Regardless of what the rumors are, we have to understand that with the ownership, we never know what they're thinking right now.
That to me is the answer to Dylan. is the reason why we're talking about it is the connection, the possibilities that before, and I'm still holding true that I don't think that's going to be the case, that they're just going to clean shop. But again, to your point, Zach, all bets are on the table. You just don't know what is going to be thought of. Who would have thought that Mayo, who was the successor, the man in waiting, the guy who was said you're next in the middle of a season, be let go hours, not even hours, what was it, about an hour after the game?
I mean, that's the quickest I feel like I've seen a head coach fired in a while.
I'm with you. I don't remember.
The rumors were both, right? So some of the rumors were, they're not really happy inside the building. And then a couple of days ago, it was, hey, everybody's feeling really good. I think it was Jonathan Jones. Everybody's feeling really good inside the building. The staff's feeling pretty secure in their job. They go out and win a game, and then they get fired.
Yeah.
Right now, the Titans staff is feeling pretty safe for the most part about their job. Yeah. They go out and lose a game, they could get fired.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know, and thanks for the call, Dylan. I'd be interested to know what the conversation has been with Callahan over the last couple of weeks. Because we're having these conversations as a sports talk. But throughout the last several weeks, personnel, what do I need? What are we doing with Levis? He's meeting with the ownership. That's part of your job as a leader, as a head coach. It's not just X's and O's. It's running a program. And part of running that program is having these business meetings with your ownership and your boss. Your direct boss is Rand Carthon. So what are these conversations? What have they been? And is it to the point where he feels comfortable enough to do and say what he has been saying without ramifications from his two bosses? And he seems to be comfortable in that. And I'm only saying that to say, based on that, I assume he's coming back. But again, I didn't see Mayo going after 1 year. But to your point, it's like, here we are with opportunity to make a move that could be significant for our franchise, and I don't feel like this is the guy. I don't see the Titans doing that, but shoot, I didn't see Mayo going either.
It's interesting because the head coaching, I guess you would say, pool to pull from, isn't really that impressive. I mean, maybe Todd Monken.
What about Arthur?
I wouldn't pick up Arthur Smith after last night's debacle. The Patriots or the Steelers fans, they hate Arthur Smith. I'm sure there are some candidates out there, but it's not a really strong pool to choose from. GM's better, but it's not by much. You don't really know what they're going to do away from their other GM sources, their other people. So like this situation is very fluid. I don't think it's very concrete yet. I think what you would know is that if there's a head coaching press conference scheduled up on Monday, we should be fine. Maybe.
Again, we'll hear from Adam Schefter in a little bit, talking before the noon slate today about Brian Callahan and how he believes he is safe this offseason from getting fired. But yes, the head coach of the team that won to secure the Titans the number 1 overall pick was just fired after going one and done with the place where he is a legend as a player to kick off the coaching carousel.
And they won more games than the Titans.
You know what might have happened? They may have had that meeting, said, we want this number 1 pick. Do not play this guy. Don't play this guy, whatever. And he went out there and he's like, forget that. I'm competing. We're going to win.
Joe Milton said, I don't think so. Yeah, Joe Milton got him fired. So orange on orange crime here.
Yeah.
But we are here to talk Titans. This is Titans Talkback, presented by League Company. All you need, visit them online at leaguecompany.com. 615-737-1045. Back to the phones with Jenny in Nashville up next. Hey, Jenny.
Hi, it's actually Jimmy Lynn, and I appreciate you taking my call. I don't really want to talk about who we're going to draft and all that sort of thing, because there's going to be plenty of time to talk about that. I want to talk about something that maybe y'all may not want to talk about on sports radio. I don't know, but my husband and I are 25-year founding PSL members. We are loyal. We show up every game. We didn't go today because we've sort of had it, but we are loyal members, and we have not yet been contacted by the organization to talk with us about PSLs in the new stadium. Now, I realize we sit up in the upper deck, but we're on the front row up there. And as I say, we've been members for 25 years, and I think that's a damn shame. I think it's wrong for them to treat their founding PSL members that way. And I just wanted to raise that. Oh, and by the way, our Christmas present this year from the team was a Delaney Walker bobblehead. Now, I like Delaney Walker, but, come on. Seriously. They got more money than that. The second thing is, I'm just infuriated when I see the Houston Oilers outfits and uniforms out there on the field. This is not Houston, and we're not the Oilers. If Ms. Strunk and her father wanted to remain the Oilers, then they could have funded the building of their own stadium in Houston, or they could have found another Texas town to pay to build them a stadium. Instead, they came to Nashville, to Tennessee, and we've now funded 2 stadiums, not one, but 2 stadiums for them. So I find it offensive that they wear their Oilers uniforms. And the final thing I want to say is I do think it's time for her to take control. And she can say that she made a good decision, and she probably did make a good decision in hiring Rand Cothran and Brian Callahan. But good decisions can also, you can look at it and you can say, well, this didn't work out quite the way I thought it was going to be. So it's time to make a change. And I think that's where we are. It's time for Rand Cothran to go, and it's time for Brian Callahan to go, and it's time for Amy Adams Strunk to decide who's going to run the front office. And that's what I have to say about that.
All right. Thanks for the call, Jenny. A lot of folks not going to agree with the Oilers take, but look, this is a show for the fans to sound off, and we're going to give you an opportunity to do that.
I'm not mad with her opinion. I'm just, I emphatically disagree with that. I mean, as somebody who's worn that uniform, both of them, as a Tennessee Oiler and a Tennessee Titan, I think in respect to those guys and who I got to meet a lot of them over the years, that when they come back to the homecoming, the guys, and to see them light up when they see those uniforms as a homage to them and the work that they put in, the blood, sweat, and tears. I just got to disagree with that and with her for that. And I've heard that before from other people, but I just think that shows respect. Every team has a throwback uniform. Unfortunately, our throwback uniform has to be another city that we have to kind of pull from. But the other part,
no offense to those last Titans jerseys, but those things are just boring. No offense.
And no offense to those. The first round.
The first
Pretty
round.
soon I am going to be a throwback uniform. We'll see when they bring those back. But to the other part, though, the season ticket thing, and again, that's a business of the ownership and the management and things of that nature. I think, I'm hearing these conversations all the time, and my take is on it, and y'all heard me say it before we got on the air, there's only 32 cities with a team. And I'm not saying go broke, you leverage your house. I'm not saying that. But the fact remains that we do have a professional football team in town. And regardless how they're going, there's only that many opportunities to see a professional football team. And I get it, though. That's I'm sure she's frustrated.
Yeah, the gifts have been terrible. I mean, I've seen the pictures and everything. I mean, Delaney Walker bobbleheads, shirts with patches sewn upside down.
Yeah, she's got a point about the Delaney Walker bobblehead.
Now, I will say this, if she's still listening. A lot of people in the F&M Bank chat on YouTube have said, check your spam folder, because they're emailing. They're not, and they're almost emailing almost every day, they said. So she may need to check her spam folder on that. To her last point, sometimes it's okay if you feel like that you made a mistake. If Amy Adams Strunk feels like she made a mistake hiring Brian Callahan and Rand Carthon or whatever, it is, if she has conviction that these guys are not the guys, she does need to fire them.
Yeah.
So I do agree that sometimes it's better to admit a mistake instead of like trying to plow through and see if it actually corrects itself.
Yeah. Honestly, it's easy for us to talk about, obviously, because we don't know how to make the decision. But as a fan, does seeing that inconsistency and things of that nature, does that derail you even more? Like when we're going to have something consistent, because you can't get throwing noodles on the wall to see if they stick. You could get a new GM next year. That didn't work. Get a new head coach. That didn't work. Get a new quarterback. That didn't work. At some point, you got to establish a culture. You got to establish something. And I keep using the Lions as the most recent memory of this and as the most recent example of that because of what they endured a lot. They endured years of average football. And then they've got a guy and they said, we're going to build this thing up. It's going to take some time. We're going to build our roster through the draft. We're going to bring in some good free agencies. We're going to trade. We're going to do some things and build a culture and climate. And look at them, 14-2, and they should have actually last year went to Super Bowl last year. They had a 20-point lead, 21-point lead. or something to that effect. So my point is, I'm more of a person of let's build something as opposed to keep blowing things up and try it again. That's just my now. That doesn't mean you have the right people in place. You at some point you're gonna figure that out. But if you keep blowing it up, you're never gonna be able to get over the hump.
And if you blow it up.
Yeah.
I mean, like, get rid of, and I hate saying this because it sounds like I'm calling for everybody's jobs, but fire Chad Brinker, fire the scouting department, fire it. I mean, like,
you saying
you got to, because
fresh.
And it's sometimes it's hard to fire the scouting department because obviously you're this late into the draft process, but next year do the turnover. Rand Carthon never did a lot of turnover in the scouting department, and I think that that's something that he probably should have weighed heavily into doing, because you need to bring in guys that you can trust, not guys that were from the prior regime that may have loyalties elsewhere.
Yeah.
615-737-1045. We've got to roll through some phone calls, so we'll do that, and we'll let you hear from Adam Schefter about Brian Callahan and what Shefty is hearing about his status going into the offseason. This is Titans Talkback, presented by Lee Company on 104.5 The Zone.
is the AFC South. This is where we're going to get the most activity. It's volatile right now. And Tennessee is sitting there with a 3-13 record. They're in contention for the number 1 overall pick. And the owner is not happy about it right now. Now, Brian Callahan was just given a start, and I think he'll be given more time. But it certainly sounds like the people in the organization are uneasy and bracing for something to happen. It doesn't sound like, right now, it involves Brian Callahan, but we're going to see what the owner has to say about that. We're leaning safe right now. Shane Steichen, the Indianapolis Colts coach, again, another place.
All right, that is ESPN's Adam Schefter. Before the game, important to note, before the noon slate, saying Brian Callahan, he believes, is safe. No mention about Rand Carthon or other leadership in that front office, but that is the last thing we heard from Adam Schefter before the games kicked off today. As we do know, the New England Patriots have fired head coach Gerard Mayo. The Tennessee Titans are on the clock for the number 1 pick in the 2025 NFL Draft. We are taking your calls on Titans Talkback, 615-737-1045. Guys, were you at all surprised before we go back to the phones that Adam Schefter was willing to come out and say he believes Brian Callahan is safe before the Texans game?
I don't know about surprised. I think that's kind of the sentiment going around, but I think to Zach's point, he's been saying it for several weeks. The performance today, did that rattle her a little bit? Did that shake things up in her mind of, I expected something different to be out here representing my father in those uniforms, if you will. Did that rattle her cage a little bit? I suspect not. I suspect she wants to build something, especially going forward. And I think she has aspirations that go beyond just building a new stadium here in the city. So I not surprised.
Yeah, and also, I mean, we kind of know where Ian Rappaport gets his information. We don't really know where Jonathan Jones or Adam Schefter get their information from, because, like, you kind of knew where, when Vrabel was here, you knew where Diana Rossini was getting her information. So we kind of knew wherever, you kind of can tell where everybody's information is coming from with these reports. And Schefter is one that I'm not necessarily too sure on. Is that a Kenneth Adams? You know, is that someone in the ownership group? Is that someone, you know, that may be who it is?
Getting some inside intel?
I don't know. We'll see. I will say this, for all the people who are like, and I have been one of these people at one moment. I mean, like, it kind of makes you look dysfunctional. And you are, listen, this is sort of right now, I wouldn't really argue against you that they're already a dysfunctional franchise, but I mean, I think they're more functional than dysfunctional right now, but it's a very thin margin. But there is a scenario where this isn't still an attractive job offer. I mean, it's one of 32, probably one of 8 if they were to fire everybody. You have the first overall pick, top 10 in salary cap space. You got flexibility at quarterback. You got flexibility with some trade pieces, and you got 8 draft picks. I mean, it still is an attractive job, and it's one of 32. So, but I just am not too thrilled with the options available to you.
Yeah.
Nothing to indicate at this point that there will be a coaching change in Tennessee.
Yeah.
Back to the phones. Let's hear from Bruce in Murfreesboro up next. Hey, Bruce.
Hey, y'all. If we take number 1 pick, we better take Cam Ward. I don't want Sanders. But if we don't take a quarterback, we got to fix up off the right side of our line. Either that or Travis Hunter. You got to take him. If you don't take Cam Ward, get draft picks from other teams that are wanting to, take our number 1 pick. One comment I do have is, y'all are on radio 6 days a week, and y'all do a lot of talking. This day right here is for people to call in and talk. So please give us more chances to talk. Thank you.
Right quick, is Bruce still on the phone?
Yeah.
Hey, so what makes you, since you want to talk, I'll let you talk. What makes you want to go over Ward over Sanders? What gives you the edge there? Hello? Bruce?
Oh, we've lost Bruce.
Oh, dang. That's one of the first people I've heard say Ward over Sanders.
Yeah.
Interesting. I'd be curious to what made him say that.
I would be interested to know, because I don't think that the system fits there.
Yeah.
And that's the big thing when you're drafting a quarterback. Everybody gets enamored with ceiling. Got to get enamored with floor and fit.
Yeah.
Especially when going into 2025, you understand what the situation is in terms of the pressure to show something on offense if it is a rookie quarterback. Mike in Old Hickory is next. Hey, Mike.
How you doing?
How you doing, man?
When you build a team, you build it block by block. And when you build a business, you build it block by block. Okay? So you get the offensive line. We're getting off everybody's calling it Sanders, blah, blah, blah. Get the TV personality, whatever, and the chains and all that. That's not going to do it. You build a team block by block. So what we need now is I take the number one and I go trading all over the system for defensive tackle, offensive guard, center. And then you've got an offensive line that you can build on. And you know what? Look back at the history of the NFL. Every great quarterback had a great offensive line. Didn't start out right, but let's not go down this path again where we're going to draft this flashy quarterback from Colorado, and that's going to save our team. No. Amy Adams has to put seats in the stadium in 2027, and that's got to be a winning team. And the only way we can do that is with an offensive line that can attract a quarterback that wants to come to Tennessee.
Thanks for the call, Mike.
Well, Joe Burrow being one of the most sacked quarterbacks over his tenure.
Not a fan of Shedeur Sanders, Mike in Old Hickory.
No, he had some very coded language there. But I will say this. I look at, Joe Burrow had a terrible offensive line. They just drafted Drake May, who had a terrible offensive line. Tua had a terrible offensive line in Miami when he got there. Justin Herbert had a terrible offensive line when he got here. There's a lot of quarterbacks that had terrible offensive lines in terms of pass blocking. And you know what happened when they drafted the quarterback? Those quarterbacks didn't take 30% of sacks, 30% pressures and turn them into sacks like Will Levis. I mean, who's throwing the ball? You just have, I don't know, Trevor Siemian back there. I don't know what his plan was.
Yeah, you got to have a plan at quarterback. Look, I understand what he's saying in principle in terms of building a good situation for a quarterback to step into. But still, that's a difficult thing to do in an offseason where you have to go get a quarterback, however you do it.
It goes to my point I've been trying to say is this the now or nothing thing, or are we building something? Because I think it depends on your philosophy. If it's your philosophy is we're building, then you may start leveraging draft picks and bringing people in and getting draft capital and building something. But I don't think people had that patience anymore with that. I don't know. Even towards the end of Vrabel's career, I think now it's like it's all or nothing. We're ready to win now. So I think we're having two different conversations within the same conversation. It's, do you want to build something that can be substantial for years to come, like the Chiefs have done, like the Lions seem to be doing, like the Steelers have done for however many years? Do you want something like that, or are you just looking for that instant gratification and get it right now? Get the right draft pick in right now, go to Super Bowl, and then be done for the next 25 years.
Well, and what's preventing them from addressing both? And why do we need a center and a defensive tackle? Like, I mean, I that call was just that was off there. But hey, we gotta let him talk more.
Yeah. His point was we need offensive line.
If there's anything you feel like you have right now, it's a center and a defensive tackle. But Lloyd Cushenberry will be back and hopefully healthy. An Achilles injury is a tough one.
Two of the best tackles in the game right now, D tackles.
Yeah.
More of your phone calls when we come back. This is Titans Talkback, presented by Lee Company. The Titans trust their home stadium to Lee Company to tackle their HVAC, plumbing, and electrical problems. They can protect your home, too. Your next play, visit LeeCompany.com. Lee Company, all you need. Back to the phones when we return on 104.5 The Zone. Welcome back. Titans Talkback presented by Lee Company, taking you up until 6:30. Pregame coverage of Sunday Night Football, courtesy of Westwood One. Big one tonight. Vikings and Lions playing for the 1 seed in the NFC. The loser has to hit the road as a wild card team, despite the fact that both are sitting there at 14-2. Meanwhile, the Broncos look to be locking up a playoff spot and boxing out both the Bengals and Dolphins for that last spot in the AFC. They are routing the Chiefs' backups 24-0. Bo Nix dealing as the second half has just kicked off. But you're here to talk about the Titans, who will have the number 1 overall pick in the 2025 NFL Draft. Let me remind you, the Titans trust their home stadium to Lee Company to tackle their HVAC, plumbing, and electrical problems. They can protect your home, too. Your next play, visit LeeCompany.com. Lee Company, all you need. Dr. Kevin Dyson, Zach Lyons, Lucas Panzica here. Marshall in Knoxville is up next. Hey, Marshall.
Hey, bro. Well, listen, how's it going? I've been listening to you guys, and you guys bring up a ton of good talking points. Every time I'm listening to y'all, here's something else I want to argue about. But listen,
I like it.
As far as that goes, man, I listen to y'all all the time, and you guys do a great job. Shout out Easter Free, shout out Tyler Rowland. They do a great job on Facebook. Okay, now, as far as the Titans getting number 1 pick, everybody's saying Shador. I think they should, if they do spend the number 1 pick on a quarterback, I think they should go Cam Ward overall first, because Cam Ward reminds me more of a Steve McNair than anybody did. And everybody knows, Kevin Dyson, you know what I'm talking about.
I said it last week.
Steve McNair threw a lot of passes, bro. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Thanks for the call, Marshall.
Yeah. Well, I said that last week, but I also look at the circumstances in which Mac had. Mac was able to take a year or so to process the game, the pro game. He wasn't just thrown in there and say, "Hey, go be the savior."
Especially the level he was coming from.
Yeah, and he had a coordinator at that time that was conservative and kind of kept him under wraps. He wasn't the Air McNair that we had grown and loved, the Heisman candidate. He was kind of more, the philosophy of Les Steckel was you can't go broke making a profit. So dump it off to Frank, be conservative, don't turn the ball over. So he set a franchise record like 2 years in a row, the fewest interceptions and from a quarterback position. That he set that 1 year, then broke it the next year because he didn't take risk. And there's something there's okay with that, but you look back on it now, that was a strategic play to help him develop as a quote-unquote pro quarterback. Well, here's the difference. I think there's similarities in the two, but here's the difference. The era of football. I think now, if Mac played now with the era of football where the ball is in the air a lot more, there's a lot more flexibility with the quarterback and the running and the zone schemes and the RPOs and all the things that they're doing. It's not quote-unquote pro-style offenses that everybody was doing back there in the 90s. It could be different because it's catered to what's coming into the league as far as quarterback play from college ball. That's why people like Daniels or Stroud can have some success in the NFL, whereas 20 years ago that wasn't often the case. Because even Peyton Manning had success, but he struggled, right? People forget Peyton struggled. He threw 20-something picks his first year. But that was a lesson that he needed to go through to be the franchise quarterback going forward and the Hall of Famer that he is.
And we've seen Bryce Young emerge from his struggles, and man, he played well today in that win against the Falcons. 5 total touchdowns. Dave Canales saying after the game, that's our guy.
Yeah, and then we can give examples of guys that were throwing in, like Carson Wentz. He won an MVP, and he's been
or almost. He was on track before he went down. Yeah,
he went to almost went to Super Bowl. His backup ended up winning it. But my point is, here's a guy who had some instant success that fell to not in favor anymore. We can name guys at Minnesota, guys at Tampa.
And Carson Wentz is currently getting whooped 24-0.
Right. But that's my point is you don't know, but that's a guy who was thrown in there, didn't get a chance to develop. Same with like my guy in Tampa. Same with my guy but now in Minnesota. Same with my guy that's now in who am I thinking of? There's another guy that got another opportunity.
Baker made some great throws today to get the Bucs out of a hole. They were down against the Saints.
Even Kirk Cousins, in some respects, because he was drafted the same class as RG3, who he sat behind him, and then he's cerebral, and he figured some things out, became a perennial starter or even a Pro Bowl quarterback. So I don't know what's the right thing to do. I tend to side on the area. If you got a veteran like a Tannehill that a rookie can sit behind and get some knowledge from. You need it. That's my.
You need it.
That's my.
It doesn't matter who you draft. Shadur, Cam Ward, Jackson Dart, Will Howard, all these guys coming out. Doesn't matter who you draft. They got to sit.
I tend to think like that, but I don't know the fans.
I wouldn't say that about every quarterback prospect and that comes out every year. This particular class, I think that's the best.
615-737-1045. Stephen in Reynoldsburg, Ohio is up next. Hey, Stephen.
Oh, wow.
What's up, guys? 25-year Titans fan. Honestly, if you guys think that Brian Callahan should be fired, I think it's a dumb decision. I agree with Kevin Dyson on a situation where Brian Callahan needs to stick with us, and so does Rand Carthon. You really want this team to be dysfunctional, that's how it happens. You fire both of those coaches, and we go right back to square one another year again. Do we want to repeat this year? I don't want to repeat this year. And as far as draft picks go, I honestly believe we should trade down, get more picks, because we all thought that we were just trying to retool and maybe, rerun and try and get into a playoff spot a couple years ago. This is a rebuild. I'd rather take a lot more picks than trying to gamble on another quarterback like Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward. I want more pieces because both three aspects of the game, the offense, the defense, and the special teams, they all have problems. We've all seen it all year. Gather up draft picks and build from there. And you want to keep Callahan for one more year at least to try and get consistency. You don't want to blow this whole thing up, in my opinion. I want to know your thoughts, guys. Yeah. Thanks.
Thanks, Stephen.
Let me ask y'all a question, and the fans too. The callers. Had the Titans been somewhere around 500 this year, would the conversation and mood be different? Because there's a couple games where they were right there, right? Now, there's been some ugly games like today, but there's been some games where they're a possession away from winning those games, but that's the difference between being a really good team and a team that's got the number one pick overall. So if they're right 8-9, 9-8, 7-10, somewhere in there, this conversation a little bit different. It's not as much of blow this thing up. I don't think. I think
you're probably right, because obviously that would mean that Will Levis at least provided you some hope.
Yeah, I guess that's
and
true.
Maybe that's technically a bad thing, because then you're kind of playing with fire. It's like a 50-50 Will Levis proposition of who you're going to get next year.
Yeah.
So maybe it's technically this is the better thing to have. It's better to have maybe new beginnings in a couple different ways than kind of like a 7-win team with Will Levis in 2025. What are we gonna do? Maybe that's the way to look at it.
Yeah. And see, as we're watching the Chiefs Broncos behind Zach over here, and we see a rookie quarterback having some success, winning a lot of football games. He's got 9 wins this year.
Bo Nix?
Yeah.
He's about to wrap up. It's 24-0 with 11 minutes to go in the third. They're going to finish 10-7, barring a miraculous comeback by the Chiefs backups here.
And they were terrible last year.
Yeah. So, again, it can happen that a guy, but there's got to be that right synergy, head coach, quarterback, to your point, Zach, of the fit to the head coach who happens to be the play caller and that matchup and that relationship. I think if you just drafting a guy just to draft a guy because he's the best quarterback on the board, but he doesn't fit what you do, then it's going to be much more the same.
And look, Bo Nix was paired with a proven quarterback coach in Sean Payton. He wasn't very good early on. We watched him improve throughout the course of the year, and it helps that he played approximately a dozen years of college football before he was drafted in the first round.
A lot of football.
Richard in Winchester is next. Hey, Richard.
Hey, guys. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. On the flip side of that, though, you have to be careful about bringing in a bridge quarterback.
Right.
Because that probably will get Raheem Morris fired this year because he put Michael Penix in too late after Kirk Cousins bombed out. So you have to be real careful about that. Just because Sam Darnold is lighting up in Minnesota doesn't mean he's going to light it up in Nashville. Teams are different. The next thing is that last year, during the Caleb Williams thing, no matter how much smoke that Chicago threw out there that they might not draft Caleb Williams, they drafted Caleb Williams. Everybody knew that. Yeah. The Titans have to draft a quarterback because you might not be 1, 2, or 3, or 4 next year as far as the draft order. This is going to be your once-in-a-lifetime chance with the stadium coming up And you're going to have to draft one of those two quarterbacks, and it'll probably be Shadura based on what Brian Callahan wants. No one predicted, you, me, or anyone else predicted that Patrick Mahomes coming out of Texas Tech would be what Patrick Mahomes is now. No one predicted that. You have to draft a quarterback if you're number one overall this year, and I think they will. You're going to hear a lot of smoke, but they're going to draft a quarterback this year. That's my call.
Thanks for the call, Richard.
To me, the biggest difference is with Caleb Williams is he was the clear number one for 2 years. His Heisman year, and then the next year, if he'd came out the Heisman year, he was number one. And then the next year, he was the number one. That's the difference. I don't know if there's a clear cut. I think we can make our assumptions on it, but I don't know if there's a clear cut number one guy this year where the Titans say, we got him, that's our franchise quarterback. Now, they may feel different, and we certainly may feel different, but I don't get that same sense this draft as it was previously with Caleb Williams.
Yeah, it's just, it's not a great quarterback draft, but that also, to his point, you never know what next year is going to bring.
That's true.
Remember when Trevor Lawrence got drafted, that entire draft, everybody's like, oh, this is a pretty good quarterback class, blah, blah, blah. And then they say, like, Spencer Rattler will be number one overall, and all the way too early projections and everything, while the draft is still going on. Spencer Rattler next year will be number one. Well, he just got drafted last year, a couple of years later, and he went in like the 4th or 5th round or something like that. So, just because Arch Manning is maybe the guy next year,
Carson Beck was going to be the number one pick this upcoming
which
draft.
was always laughable. And Garrett Nussmeier or, all these guys are perceived better than this class, could go out and put terrible tape out there and not be, who you think they are right now. Drew Aller may not be able to make that leap. Maybe he is like Will Levis and he doesn't make that second-year leap, or I guess the third-year leap under, in Penn State. Maybe Garrett Nussmeier is just kind of who he was all year and just kind of mediocre quarterback. Like, we don't know what next year is going to be, and teams can't just bank on, can't roll the dice and gamble that next year they're going to get their quarterback. And the reason I'm a big bridge quarterback guy, I'm bridge plus rookie quarterback, not just bridge quarterback, but bridge plus a rookie quarterback.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting is where the value is. If Cam Ward and Sanders remain the top two quarterbacks in this draft, the value of somebody like Dart or Beck, like, where's their value in this draft? Are they mid-level, 3, 4, 5, or does somebody, or Gabriel even, the lefty, are they somewhere seeing them in the 2nd, 3rd round as a steal?
Yeah.
And then if the Titans may say, I like Dart, so we got this number one pick. Let's leverage some things, knowing our guy is Dart, and let's go down. Somebody wants this number one pick to go get Sanders or Ward or whoever. We can get some draft capital, get us a tackle, whatever it may be, knowing good and well I'm just going to throw a name out there, Dart.
And look, I think a lot of people would scoff at that because maybe they watched Jackson Dart throw a bunch of interceptions against Florida. But going into last year's draft, let's say at the end of the NFL regular season, who in the world had Bo Nix as a first-round pick even?
Right.
I mean, it felt like there was a wide gulf between QB1 and the likes of Bo Nix and even Michael Penix. So we have no idea how the next few months are going to play out in evaluating these players and interviews and all of the factors, variables.
The big boards and the gradings, I will give. This will be the first of many warnings that I give everybody. I love Dan Brugler. Dane Brugler. I love Mel Kiper, Todd McShay, all these guys that put in the work. They watched film. Their big boards are nothing like the big boards of NFL teams. Very rare. You hear all the time NFL scouts, execs say, yeah, those big boards, they're not anything like ours because every team has different needs. Every team views everything differently. They have different grading systems and all that. Paying attention, it's fine to kind of get a feel for like certain prospects that you may not have ever heard of, but there's a reason why nobody really ever has a perfect mock draft or has a perfect big board because it's just such a hard thing to predict when you're on the outside looking in.
Yeah, we don't know how those boards are going to fall for the next few months.
It's fun to talk about.
It definitely is, and we will have fun talking about it today and all the way up until the end of April.
I will have a blast talking about it. I love it. I love the offseason.
You live for this stuff. This is Titans Talkback, presented by Lee Company. All you need, visit them online at leecompany.com. 615-737-1045. More of your calls when we come back on 104.5 The Zone. Titans fall at home to the Texans 23-14. The season is over at 3-14, and the Titans are officially on the clock for the 2025 NFL Draft. We're with you talking about it until 6:30. Myself, Lucas Panzica, alongside Titans great Dr. Kevin Dyson and Zach Lyons, who you can hear from 1 to 3 every day on Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in. Quickly, before we get back to the phones, want to get to our Higginbotham right call of the game. And we're going to go with the deep shot. Late, 2:41 to play, fourth quarter, to Tay Martin, a 49-yard touchdown pass from Will Levis. Martin's first touchdown catch, or just catch, period, and touchdown of his NFL career. As Brian Callahan confirmed, it was intended for Bryce Oliver. Martin kind of snagged it off of him as they're both crossing over the middle of the field.
He snagged it off the defender.
The defender had a shot at it, too. Look, it was 23-14, tough game, slim pickings. But that is the Higginbotham right call of the game. Higginbotham can be your business teammate by helping manage your risks, limit your liability, put a plan of action in place, and control your costs. Insurance plans for your company and your assets. It's all online at Higginbotham.com. That also brings us right to the Kellum science behind the stat. On that play, the 49-yard touchdown to Tay Martin, Will Levis notched 54.3 air yards on the deep ball, and that is the Kellum science behind the stat. From autism to arthritis, your body, your cells, your solution. Call 615-850-4415 for your consultation. Guys, I think a lot of folks would scoff at the idea of Will Levis getting traded after what he did this season, kind of what he put out there. But when you look at some recent history in quarterbacks in similar situations in year 2 of their rookie contract, where you rolled them out, let's see what we got type of thing, and it didn't pan out, most of those teams were able to move those guys. Desmond Ridder, Sam Howell, Drew Lock, Kenny Pickett,
Trubisky.
There's a long list. There's a long list of guys that had a similar result to Will Levis with a similar timeline and were able to be moved. What kind of value do you think is out there for Will Levis in a potential trade? As we've seen the arm talent this year, we've seen some blips of good, but we understand what the total product was on aggregate in 2024.
I mean, something like a pick swap, essentially. So you trade Will Levis in a lower round pick and you get a higher round pick. I mean, that's probably the best way to kind of look at it. I don't think you would be able to get a fifth straight up for Will Levis, but maybe there's some team after some quarterback movement says, okay, that's a backup I want.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting. I think what got him drafted is going to be the same thing with the interest of the people in the league is his arm strength and his ability, his physical specimen. And somebody's going to say, we can work with him. He don't have to be the guy. We already have our guy. We can just work with him, develop him, and put him in when we need him, so to speak. So I don't know. Somebody's going to fall in love with him, whether that's a trade or not. That remains to be seen. But we've seen guys with lesser arm talent and physical talent than him get traded and 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round picks.
Josh Rosen, another example pointed out by the F&M Bank chat. Michael pointing that one out.
I forgot about him. Goodness gracious. He was a first-round pick.
He was top 10 pick. 9 of 17 was Levis today, 175 yards and a touchdown, a rating of 108.7. He did have a 39-yard completion to Calvin Ridley, which got Ridley over 1,000 yards on the year. 3 catches, 76 yards for Ridley. He is the 8th player in the Tennessee Titans era to notch a 1,000-yard receiving season, not the 8th 1,000-yard receiving season the Titans had, the 8th player to do it. Guys like Derek Mason, A.J. Brown obviously had multiple. Ridley also one of now 4 active players with 1,000-yard receiving seasons with 3 different teams. He joins Amari Cooper. Yeah, Amari Cooper, DeAndre Hopkins, and Brandon Cooks. So good company to be in there for Calvin Ridley. Back to the phones. Let's hear from Jared in Mount Juliet. Hey, Jared.
How's it going, guys?
All right, man.
Hey, so regarding the New England situation, I called that all year long. I said Mayo would get 1 year at New England, and then Vrabel gets that job. And I believe he'll make them a competitor next year. And I think we fired a really good head coach to hand them that opportunity. I think we had a proven head coach this time last year, and now we don't. And I'm probably more tolerant of Callahan than I am anyone else that's involved in this mess, especially the owner. I think the fans deserve better, and I hope she holds herself accountable. And I really wish this show, or maybe even Buck's show tomorrow, Lucas, you go back and find her interview with Mike Keith the day she fired him. when she said things like, this season's results were really unacceptable. We got a promising young quarterback. The future is bright. A lot of things that she's been wrong about so far. But my question is there more uncertainty today about Callahan than there was before we even started the season? And when you say, well, what are the better options? Well, what are we comparing the better options or the other options against? A 3-14 season, or being dead last in penalties and turnovers? This was a miserable one-year resume, and I wish you guys would call that out for what it was. I'm not saying we fire Callahan and blow it up. I think we've created such a mess it's going to be hard to, but I just don't think there's enough recognition of just how bad a mess she's created and what's been done and how these fans deserve better. And I'll hang up and listen.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Jared.
I think we've talked about, maybe not on today's episode, but I know we've talked about on Cover 2 that this is kind of the mess that they're in because of certain things. Because I kind of look at it like bad process, good results, good process, bad results. You got to kind of look at it like that. And I think that some of the stuff that she has done, because we've talked about on Cover 2, I think we've talked about it on here a couple weeks ago about how some of the stuff, the timing of some of the things that she has done has caused to be in this mess. We just don't know where this is going to go next. Like, what if she keeps Brian Callahan? Listen, it's a terrible season. I don't think anybody's going to disagree that you can't call a 3-14 season great. Yeah. But we don't know what's going to be next. And if she fires all these people, then we know that, hey, she felt like she had a bad process in the or good process in interviewing, and it had bad results. Yeah. So, I don't think anybody needs to really beat the horse of how pitiful this season was. I think we've done that for 17 weeks.
I agree with you, Zach. I think we've talked about all those things. Maybe not ad nauseum because we're talking about. We're supposed to be talking about this game specifically. We just have to be at the end of the season. We can elaborate a little bit more. I think in just though, I go back to, do fans alike want to cut ties, start over again? Or are we in that let's build something? And I don't know if they're
I think it's split.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like they're coupling what happened with Vrabel and JR with present day and saying we've been dealing with this, blah, 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 when really we hadn't. We just saw that valley with Vrabel and he never can get back out of it. And now here we are trying to dig out of it. So we're really starting anew when we fell off, if you will. And I think people are still looking at it like we've been starting anew for years. But no, we fell from the mountaintop. We were one of the best teams in the NFL, number one seed overall, and fell from the mountaintop. And now we're trying to get back up there.
And this is bottoming out. This is what it feels like. And these are the reactions that you get when you bottom out. I guess
quite literally, you have the number one pick in the draft.
I guess maybe I'm just numb to a 3-14 record because we kind of saw this coming basically like week 9. Yeah. Listen, this season lived and died by Will Levis, and it died a slow, painful death at the hands of Will Levis.
And we can acknowledge as well there were so many issues beyond the quarterback. But I do think when
special teams looked pretty good today. Just want to throw that back out there. That special teams coach looked pretty good.
Well, and the inability to play complementary football has plagued this team all year. I mean, you mentioned special teams. Bryce Oliver, a nice kickoff return to set them up in good field position. Can't do anything with it, right? You get a goal line stand, get a big defensive stop on your own 1 yard line, big play to get out of it, the 39-yarder to Ridley that gets him over 1,000. Literally the next play, the handoff to Oliver is blown up by Derek Barnett, scoop and score a touchdown. So at no point this year have they been able to build on the good in game. And those are all fair criticisms. But like you said, we've been talking about that for 18 weeks at 3-14.
And today was a tank job anyway. They were playing to lose. You can't convince me they weren't playing to lose. I mean, I don't think the players, maybe coaching to lose is a better way to put it, because I don't think the players were necessarily, playing to lose, but they were coaching to lose.
Titans Talkback presented by Lee Company. All you need, visit them online at leecompany.com. Right back to the phones. Let's hear from Zach in Chattanooga up next. Hey, Zach.
Hi. I was wondering, are they ever going to induct anyone else into the Ring of Honor? I mean, we have some legendary times that need to go in there. All right, guys, you mentioned earlier Delaney Walker, number 82. He deserves it. Chris Johnson for his legendariness in Nashville. And also someone that's not talked about enough, but he should be, Taylor Lewan deserves to be in the Ring of Honor for left tackle. Oh, and also, they need to give away ponchos at the game instead of those little flyers. That's all. Bye.
Thanks for the call, Zach.
Well, that's a whole nother show. Y'all can do that show.
Yeah, we don't need to get sucked down that rabbit hole.
I just want to say, I mean, they got when this new stadium arrives, they got to redo this Ring of Honor thing because right now all they got is those poster boards zip tied to the 300 section. Let's get something really nice.
Yeah,
and I agree they need to do more.
There's a few guys like Kevin Byard I think his name would be mentioned. Obviously, CJ.
But before we even get to those, you got so many other guys that still need to be from
way back.
Yeah, from way back.
Let's throw number 87 up while we're at it, too. Kenny
depends on what 87 ain't this one.
Kenny the mailman is up next from Ashland City. Hey, Kenny.
Hello, good friends. 2 questions for you. I hadn't heard anyone say this, but with the good opening at the University of Tennessee, do y'all think this was the last time we hear Mike Keith call a Titans game? And second, it is big that y'all reported that Mayo got fired because if Vrabel gets scooped up real quick this week by New England, guess which team saves a lot of money from not having to pay for
Oh, that's
firing
a great point.
Yes, that guy was fussing. Y'all reported that. And they can turn around and fire this guy and reinvest the money. But, yeah, that they needed to think about that. If Vrabel gets hired, they're off the hook for the money. And be sure and answer that first question. Y'all have a great day.
Hey, thank you, Kenny. Great point.
Great point. What was the question? I forgot.
It was about Mike Keith on Titans.
No.
Yeah, we can't speak to that, Kenny.
I'm going to, because you can't. I'm going to. I would say no. He started this thing. He built this thing. This is him. He's the voice of the Titans. I know that's his alma mater. He's a Franklin kid, born and raised. He's home. I'm going to say no, but money talks.
Yeah, I would think that he's staying.
Yep.
Right? I mean, right?
Yeah.
Right?
He built this thing. He's been the only voice for the Titans. And I don't think he's done, but he's been.
And he's living good.
Yeah, he's good.
Even though there is a weird contingent of people in the F&M Bank chat that want Mike Keith fired and they think that he is the reason that we're losing, it's really odd.
I think that's kind of a tongue-in-cheek
Yeah, I'm sure it is, but it's just a weird, the only thing that hasn't changed is Mike Keith, in all these years, and I'm like, and that's a really weird thing to look at.
An incredible constant for this organization since day one of being in Nashville, no doubt about that. Let's go to Mo Allen is what I'm reading in South Nashville. Hey, Mo.
Hey there. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Well, I wanted to say, one, I think it's draft malpractice not to draft a quarterback at the top of the draft if you don't have one. I think that's just crazy talk. And two, I just don't agree with this narrative on Cam Ward. I feel like people have not watched game film on him. Mm-hmm. If you watch him, he has amazing talent. He's got a great arm. He's extremely mobile. He navigates the pocket as well as anyone who's come out in years, and he has ice water in his veins. And he's the opposite of Will Levis. When things are going crazy about him, he's calm, collected, and he makes it happen. And I think it would be the biggest mistake since we passed on Randy Moss to not draft him.
Thanks for the call, Mo.
I disagree with some of it, but I get what he's saying. We just got to remember when you're having these draft discussions, and something for your show too, is that there's a difference between when you're talking about prospects, there's overall prospects in general, and then there's prospects that fit the Tennessee Titans and their scheme.
Yeah,
and so to me, I get what he's saying, and most people will say this all offseason. Well, Cam Ward's got the better athleticism. Cam Ward's got the stronger arm, and Cam Ward has more upside. And that's fine. I heard all those things about Will Levis, too. And that's fine. We heard that all about Anthony Richardson. But it's about the fit. Mm-hmm. And it's about the fit to this offense. And I've seen so many plays in games where Cam Ward has a clean pocket and just does something that will never work in the NFL that will lead to a turnover. And we're talking about a guy who has over 80-something turnovers total between fumbles and interceptions in his career in the NFL.
Yeah. I mean, to that point, we have so much time between now and then.
Right.
I think you're saying it right, Zach, in the sense that one thing is, that's the best player in the draft, and if you're desperate need, you're just going to make it work. I don't know if the Titans are there, as opposed to they got to make the right decision, too. I think they're at this point where they got to make the right decision between the two. I think the difference for me is, and both of them, I think, need this. But Cam, if you got the right kind of veteran in front of him where he can sit there and process things similar to Penix, I think he can be a pretty substantial starter in this league for years to come. I just don't know if fans are willing to wait another year or two. I think they're going to want him to play now, where in my opinion, he may come and prove me wrong, that he would benefit from a year or so of being able to process the game and just develop mentally the pro game and some physical skills too, but develop that watching a veteran do his thing. And that's just my opinion. But I don't think fans want that. I think they want to get the guy that's going to come in, take him to the Super Bowl. And that just doesn't happen all the time. And you know what I mean? I mean, even Stroud and Daniels and even Nix, who's going back to the playoffs this year as rookies, are they going to Super Bowl? Stroud did in his rookie year. It remains seen with Daniels and Nix. I would probably say no if the Chiefs, Vikings and Lions and who else, Bills had something to say with it. Those would be my top 4 favorites.
Yeah, it will just be interesting to see. And like you said, we got a long ways to go. We don't even know Brian Callahan's job's technically safe. We could be talking about a totally new system.
That's true.
We just don't know.
615-737-1045. Let's hear from Justin in Brentwood up next. Hey, Justin.
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call.
Hey, man.
So I think, one, I'm stoked that the Titans have the first pick in the draft. I think it's also kind of a dangerous territory for them right now, because you're going to talk about, okay, if we're going to pick a quarterback at the top, you have to find a guy who fits Callahan's system. But Callahan, I mean, I can't name 2 or good 3 things that went well for him this year. I kind of put him in this Nathaniel Hackett, Adam Gase type of conversation, to where he played with some good quarterbacks in the past as an offensive coordinator. He wasn't calling plays. He comes in, he's calling plays now. He's the head coach. Nothing went right for him this year. So I think if you're the Titans front office, you have to have the conversation to say, okay, we have the top pick in the draft. If there's a quarterback that we're 100% locked in on and we think he's going to be the franchise guy, you got to take him. But at the same time, you want to commit to, if you like both Ward and Sanders equally, but one fits Callahan's system better, and then Callahan goes into next year and is terrible again, then you fire the head coach after next season, and now you've got a new head coach that comes in, and then you've got a quarterback you just picked first overall that has to fit whatever the system is of a new coach that's coming in. So I think from that perspective, it's going to be an interesting week to really see what happens from a reflection standpoint with the ownership group, to say, is now the time to hit the reset button on the head coach, whether or not they want to keep Rand or not. I think Rand's done some good things, but for me, if you wanted to cut ties with Callahan right now, similar to what New England's done with Mayo, although they already have their quarterback, I'm not going to lose sleep over it. So that's kind of where my head's at right now. I think it's great the Titans have the first pick. I'm a season ticket holder. I'm hoping they can turn this thing around. If they stick with Callahan, I hope it works out. But at the same time, just thinking logistically with NFL franchises, if you got a guy that you love, but you got a head coach that you're really uncertain about, it just feels like kind of a danger territory to go in with the same head coach, pick a new quarterback, and then you're kind of in this never-ending run that the Titans kind of seem to be.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Justin.
That's a great point.
The Bears.
Yeah.
Letting Matt Eberflus be the head coach after selecting Caleb Williams was silly. You were going to get the number 1 overall quarterback. You knew what Caleb Williams was. You should have got an offensive kind of head coach in the building and fired Matt Eberflus.
Yeah, if he's your number 1 guy.
Right.
That's a great point.
That's why I don't rule out with the number 1 overall pick. Do you go ahead and clean house?
Yeah.
I still say no. and I may be in the minority among fans, but I do think that is a distinct possibility that Amy Adams Strunk is probably weighing right now.
Because what I appreciate about that call is it makes you think if Cam Ward is their guy, he's their number one. I'm just going to throw his name out. It might not be the quarterback. We're making assumption it's a quarterback, but he doesn't fit what Callahan wants to do. But he's Rand's guy. He's Amy's guy. He's the scouting's number one guy. He's the quarterback, but he doesn't fit. What sense does it make to make that marriage again? Because it didn't work with Levis and him. So that's going to be interesting to say. Again, we're
right.
All, again, it's long time.
And the thing is how much scouting has Callahan done? Right? I mean, he's been in the middle of doing probably 50,000 other things other than just scouting these quarterbacks. And
next to none, if I had to guess. Yeah.
And maybe he has a cursory knowledge, right? Like, I mean, I don't really believe that he has, I don't believe how far he went with it because obviously you probably are still watching football games, but you probably haven't sat down for the all 22. You probably just seen the games in real time.
Yeah.
So but I do think that where TD kind of landed on was Shedeur is the only guy that they really, are, enthralled with, I guess, or interested in. Well, I mean, I think you can kind of say that that's coming from the recruiting, coaching, or staff side, not recruiting, scouting side.
Yeah.
Titans Talkback is presented by Lee Company. All you need, visit them online at leecompany.com. 615-737-1045. When one line comes open, another one fills up. We're going to get to more of your phone calls next on 104.5 The Zone. Titans Talkback continues until 6:30 tonight. We're taking you right up until pregame coverage of Westwood 1 Sunday Night Football, Vikings and Lions. Huge game to close out the regular season. Winner takes the 1 seed in the NFC. Loser finishes second in the division despite a 14-win season and has to hit the road as a wild card team, the 5 seed in the NFC. Dr. Kevin Dyson, Zach Lyons, Lucas Panzica with you. Before we get back to the phones, want to remind you about Kroger Sacks for Cash. Today, the Titans had 1 sack, courtesy of Harold Landry. So for the season, Kroger's donation to Second Harvest Food Bank of Middle Tennessee stands at $3,900, courtesy of that 1 sack. $3,900 for the entire 2024 campaign. Every time the Titans sack the opposing team's quarterback, Kroger donates $100 to Second Harvest Food Bank of Middle Tennessee from Kroger. Through its Zero Hunger, Zero Waste plan, Kroger is committed to ending hunger in our communities. Harold Landry finishes the year with 9 quarterback sacks to lead the team. The Titans did not have a double-digit sack getter in 2024, for lack of a better phrase. Landry leading the way there. Back to the phones. Let's hear from Suave Zombie up next in Nashville.
With the first overall pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, your Tennessee Titans select a new GM, Carthon. You suck. For real, guys. How many first-round picks would it take to turn this team around? The only thing I want to hear from Miss Amy is that she messed up and she should have picked Mike Vrabel. And I would love to break that down with you. As far as Carthon, he got rid of Henry, and then he doubled down and stuck his neck out for the whole organization with Levis, getting rid of Willis, kind of like Moneyball, where, you get rid of players, you can't put them in. The locker room was lost early in the season. So it's just 100% Carthon has got to go, man. I watched the game today and protested with a Merry Christmas sack on my head, and tried to enjoy it. And it's just, we deserve better, man. We deserve better. Appreciate it, guys.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Suave Zombie.
They didn't get rid of Henry. Henry walked. He has been rumored for over a year before he even hit free agency that he wanted to go to the Ravens.
Well, they let him walk, but we understood why it made sense at the time.
But he also didn't want to come back.
Yes.
He's
doing pretty okay.
Yeah. He didn't want to come back.
He didn't want to go through a rebuild.
Yeah.
By the way, 1,900-yard season, first player in NFL history to have multiple years of 1,900 or more rush yards. I mean, we'd sit here for another 10 minutes if I listed off all the records he and Lamar posted with that win yesterday.
Rand Carthon didn't go out on a limb with Will Levis. Basically, you drafted depend on who you ask, but is pretty much a collaborative effort, according to the latest reporting, that everybody was on board with getting Will Levis. So that includes your boy, Mike Vrabel.
But I think there is something to there being that accountability for putting the chips in on Will Levis and investing around him the way that they did.
Well, if your boss comes down and says you got to do something,
sure, but we don't know that. We don't know.
It's been nationally reported, but we haven't heard it from her. But then you see her statement about supporting Will Levis with her full-throated support, and said it in every chance that she got. So what is your directive from the owner to support Will Levis? I mean, what are you going to do? Come out and say, no, I'm not going to, support you, Amy, after you just chose me over Mike Vrabel? You got to kind of go with what the person signing your paycheck says. And I don't get the locker room got lost. I don't know. First off, I wouldn't know how that's Rand Carthon's fault. But second off, I don't know where that even happened. Losing the locker room never happened.
615-737-1045. Let's hear from Scott in Shelbyville up next. Hey, Scott.
Hey there. How are you?
Good.
Good. Okay. So first thing I just wanted to say, the reason I call is I know that, we can talk about the draft and everything like that until the cows come home, and we got a lot of time to do that and everything. But I just want to say, listen, thank you guys for doing this show. I know you're not getting rich or anything, doing it, but at any rate, I love the Sunday, it kind of feels the Sunday afternoons and everything like that. I hate it's, not this is the last game and everything, despite, how bad this season has been. Just wanted to say thanks to you guys and looking forward to it next year for sure.
I appreciate that.
Yeah,
man.
thank you, Scott. Appreciate that. The kind words. I mean, look, there are worse things to be doing, no matter how bad a football team is. So 3-14 has been tough on everybody, no doubt. But the next few months are going to be fun, talking about what's next with the variety of different directions they could go. Jeremy in Lockhart, Texas is next. Hey, Jeremy.
Hey, guys. How are y'all?
Good, man. How you?
I'm good. I just had a point of, if you take Callahan and you blow him out after 1 year, who are you going to get that you only that only feels like they're only going to get a year? And I think you're setting a precedence.
Mm.
Oh, and Kevin, I'm still waiting on your book.
It gave it a couple more weeks. Still doing pre-orders.
Thanks for the call, Jeremy.
Yeah, I mean, you got guys out there like Liam Cohen, who's essentially probably just Brian Callahan. And my biggest fear would be, they fire Brian Callahan, bring in Liam Cohen, and he wants to keep Will Levis. That'd be my biggest fear.
Man, you're coming up with some pretty scary fan fiction there for Titans fans.
Yeah, Todd Monken is the guy that's probably overdue, the offensive coordinator, but he's a little bit on the older side. So there's this inexperienced, and then there's probably a guy that's like Todd Monken that's interviewed several times for a head coaching job, has never gotten one. That kind of should set up a little bit of red flags for you. So,
yeah.
It's not, like I said, you probably need to go a little bit deeper, maybe into the Lions pool. I don't think Ben Johnson would really want to come here, but you never know.
Yeah. He declined an interview last offseason, and he'll have his options again this offseason.
Yeah. I don't know. And listen, it's not a great reason to keep someone is that, there's no other better options. It's like staying with someone and you're like, well, I don't really want to go on the online dating pool. There's probably nobody out there for me, or all these options are worse. Like, that's not a great way to have a relationship. But that's kind of, again, timing is everything, and the timing is a little bad right now.
Yeah. I just think if you continue to blow it up, you never build anything consistently. And I don't know who's the next hot coach. And we've seen guys supposed to be Eric Bieniemy. He's supposed to be the next hot coach, right? It didn't work out for him, right? He must interview poorly. I don't know, but it didn't work out. And I'm talking about offensive minds coming from a pedigree like Kansas City.
It didn't even work out in college.
It didn't even work out in college
for Eric Bieniemy.
For Eric Bieniemy. So there's always going to be another hot young new coach you give an opportunity to, but is it lightning in the bottle? At some point, you have to stop trying to get that instant success and try to build something like, and I keep using the Lions as the example, but like Dan Campbell, and they have a culture now. People come in and they fit a culture of winning that he has built, a culture of respect that they mutual between player and coach, that and organization and administration that they have, and they are winning consistently now. I wouldn't have put Goff in the conversation as one of the elite quarterbacks, but he's a very good football player, and he's been within the system. He's a former first-round pick who was traded for another guy who won a title in his city he was drafted in. He has something to prove, and that's kind of the mentality that the Lions have. We're a team that has something to prove. It's not flashy. We're not this, we're not that, but they established that culture. I think the problem is I don't think Titans fans have been – Lions have been bad for how long up until recent? Even with Barry Sanders.
Decades, yeah.
Decades. And imagine their fans. You talking about somebody wearing a paper bag over your head. They were doing that going into the stadium the first game of the season. And everybody's optimistic the first game of the season.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, man.
They're going to do, let me say something. If you bring everybody back, the staff, the front office, the players, and the owner are not going to want to have a season like this.
Yeah.
So take solace in the fact that they're going to do everything that they can to put together a winning season that is the polar opposite of what you just saw.
Yeah. How much of this is Callahan? How much is it the quarterback situation?
Yeah.
How much is the offensive line? How much is it Rand Carthon?
Because you do start back
like that.
You start back at ground zero if you clean house.
And listen, for what it's worth, Rand has done some remarkable things in his short stint as a decision maker. I think his draft picks, his first 2 picks of this past draft, have been spot on. His rookie class has been pretty good. I think there's some free agent and some roster moves that probably could have been done better. But I think he would even agree with that. That, you know what, I probably could have done something a little different here. You know what I'm saying? And some of it is stuff that we don't even know. Some of it's circumstantial, where there's an injury or something that they foresee, or there's a salary cap or something to this effect, or something else that is working out that we're not privy to. So I'm not completely excusing Rand, but I don't necessarily consider him on the chopping block based off of one off season of moves and one season of moves. Now, if you're tying his performance to what Callahan and this team has done, well, then that's for everywhere you go. It's going to be, if they fail, I fail. And if you succeed, I succeed. Well, that's not the way of the world.
The one thing Rand Carthon has not done is draft those cornerstone star players that hit immediately, right? Like John Robinson did with Jeffrey Simmons and A.J. Brown and the like.
I'd make the argument from Sweat. I mean, I feel like he's going to be a perennial Pro Bowler.
Sure. No, he very well could. And so could J.C. Layton.
But you're talking year one.
I'm talking year one. And my point is, I think nothing wins over a fan base quicker than drafting Jeffrey Simmons. He even misses half the year, comes in as an instant impact. Drafting A.J. Brown, he's a 1,000-yard receiver his rookie season, right? I'm with you. I mean, I'm on the same page as you, but I don't think Rand Carthon will have the full trust of this fan base until those type of hits start to happen. Yeah. And the question for this offseason is, will the organization continue to trust him to try to keep taking those swings?
Yeah, but I would argue that Sweat did have some immediate impact. It's just hard. He's in the shadows of Big Jeff.
It's 3, if he includes Skoronski, 3 very highly unsexy picks. Yeah. Like, they play unsexy positions.
Yeah. Well, and they need some sexy positions. So we'll see what kind of swings they take with this offseason.
If you get a A.J. Brown type pick where it's just like, man, they hit on this one, now let's build around. You know what I mean? That's what you think he needs to get.
I mean, you point to the Lions, and you're absolutely right. And the Lions brought in the likes of Penei Sewell and Amon-Ra St. Brown and Aiden Hutchinson, all guys that are literally paid at the highest level of their respective position, right? That's a huge component of why the Lions are where they are, for just crushing these Kirby Joseph just year over year over year. I agree with you, Dice. I am not in the boat of clean house in the front office. I do think Rand Carthon has showed some things. I don't think you win over the unanimous support of the fan base, though, until you start to hit on those type of star players.
Well, okay, I get it, but St. Brown, he wasn't just that first year. He wasn't an instant success. He's built that up. Mm-hmm. The only one you can make the argument for, and so is a lineman. It is what it is. He was kind of coming out. Is he a tackle? He's a guard. What is he? And he is proven to be one of the best players in his respective position. But Hutchinson, what pick was he?
Oh, top
3?
2 pick. Yeah.
Right. My point in saying
and he only got him because the Jaguars were stupid.
Right. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. So they were up there in the draft. Well, they got it because of Jack's pick, that trade, but they weren't even. So, again, circumstantial. I hear what you're saying. And the circumstantial, we are talking about generational guys that they're not even generational guys. They just happen to be like they fit a mold, a culture that they were looking for. Some guys hardworking. St. Brown is not. He wasn't a sexy pick in my opinion. He's not that lanky like a Harrison guy that you were like, oh, he's going to be something in the league. Like everybody kind of knew Harrison was going to be pretty good, but he's a worker, and that's what they get. They get workers. They get guys that fit a certain mold, and I think Vrabel and them were trying to do that. Here's our mold, and
especially with Des Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, and I think they're trying to do that now.
When Amon-Ra was still on the board,
I do think that these draft classes are more indicative of what you're talking about. The guys that love football. Not your Isaiah Wilsons, not your, and guys that can contribute.
Not because they're the best in their position at that point.
Even if they're 6th-round picks, they are still 7th-round picks because Jaquan Jackson's not contributing. But those guys that are contributing.
Up against it here, we got more phone calls to take. We'll continue the conversation going until 6:30. Titans Talkback, presented by Lee Company on 104.5 The Zone. The Titans trust their home stadium to Lee Company to tackle their HVAC, plumbing, and electrical problems. They can protect your home, too. Your next play, visit leecompany.com. Lee Company, all you need. With you until 6:30 on Titans Talkback. Quick recap of everything that has happened today in the regular season finale. Titans fall 23-14 to the Texans to finish the year 3-14. The Patriots win over Buffalo. Joe Milton with a big day. Clinches the number 1 overall pick for the Tennessee Titans for the first time in almost a decade. The last time they had the number 1 pick, they traded it to the Rams, who drafted Jared Goff. Titans went on to draft Jack Conklin, of course, in the, I believe, 2016 NFL draft. Elsewhere, noon slate was filled with great games. The Tampa Bay Bucks are NFC South champs after their win over the Saints in come-from-behind fashion. Joe Burrow and the Bengals will sit at home despite an incredible season for the offense, not so much on the defense, as the Broncos are just beating down the Kansas City Chiefs. No, it has gone final, 38-0. Kansas City blanked in Denver. Broncos get that last playoff spot in the AFC, which means the Dolphins also will be sitting at home. They are down multiple scores anyway to the Jets in a game that they had to win to have any shot. And, of course, Sunday Night Football, Vikings and Lions for the 1 seed in the NFC. Should be a great game. We'll have it for you here on The Zone. 615-737-1045. Talking all things Titans, NFL Draft, 2024 season. Mark in the Borough is up next. Hey, Mark.
Hey, man, I'm glad we got this number 1 pick. I'm just kind of curious about how we play it out. Of course, there's not many free agents that are going to, be great out there, that is going to be spicy and young. So we got an opportunity to get a young, spicy quarterback. But my question is, which one of the quarterbacks are more like Joe Burrow? And then also, which one is more like Lamar? And which one would you rather have right now? Someone who could fit Callahan like someone like Joe Burrow, and which one is that? And then do we need a running quarterback like Lamar? Those are my questions.
Thanks for the call, Mark.
I don't think you need a running quarterback like Lamar, but I think the Shedeur is close. In his analogy, Shedeur is closer to Joe Burrow. Cam Ward's closer to Lamar Jackson. Yeah. Now,
simply in play style, right?
Just
Let's not do that.
Y'all keep calling Lamar a running quarterback. This man threw for 4,000 yards and 40-something touchdowns. Just saying.
Yeah, but I get what he's trying to say. Yeah. But let's say if you fired Brian Callahan and you hired Todd Monken, you go Cam Ward. That's how I kind of view it.
Yeah.
If you keep Brian Callahan, you go with Shedeur Sanders. And it's all about system fit.
Yeah. Personality, system fit. And we'll see how they both interview their personal workouts. I think Titans will hold tight to the cuff. It'll be similar to my draft, which was Ryan Leaf, Peyton Manning. I think the Colts already knew they were going with Peyton, but they played it up to the end that it might be Ryan Leaf and things of that nature, but they went through the process with both of them. I think it's very similar in that regard. I think both of them would benefit from having somebody that's been through it, that's played in this league a long time.
Like my nobody's gonna like this in the chat. This is where the chat will turn on me. I am definitely, if Derek Carr gets cut, I'm Carr/Sanders 2025. Ooh. Like, bring those two guys in. Carr, has familiarity with the system. He can be a good mentor for Shedeur Sanders. Like, that buys you time to be competitive. Buy time to keep Shedeur Sanders on the bench until he's ready. That's where I'm at. I know that's a very unpopular opinion, but that's kind of where I'm at.
It's not a bad idea, though.
Do you remember as a first-round prospect how much you paid attention to the top of the draft in that way? Team needs, all those type of things, maybe trying to project to yourself where you would land, or was there somebody in your ear more doing that? How did you handle that as a player?
Man, it's hard not to pay attention on it. There was some definites in the top 5, and then it didn't work out. The top 5 was, of course, 2 quarterbacks, Andre Wadsworth, Charles Woodson, Randy Moss, and then the rest of us. And so I was projected anywhere from 8 to 16. I went 16. So it worked out for me. And I happen to know, my agent told me there was calls. I think the Ravens ended up with the 8th pick. 10th pick, they got Dwayne Starks, and there was conversation them somebody trading up for that pick to draft me, which I took that money too. But again, there was circumstantial and things of that nature with the draft. But it was my draft had a lot of Hall of Famers come out of that draft. I'm proud to say I didn't make it, but there's gonna be a few of them that are in there. But just that whole thing, I just wanted to be picked. I just wanted my name called. I just wanted an opportunity to play. I didn't, you hear players say it like I didn't care. I would just have to be in the conversation. I just wanted to play. I knew I had talent, and I just get me somewhere so I can prove it. And that was my mindset the whole time. But you couldn't help but look. I'm, getting on the internet, and this is before the internet is what it is now. This is 98. It was starting all these draft predictions and mock drafts, and had me 11 going to Philly, had me 8 going to Dallas, had me 10th going to Baltimore, had me 24th to New York. It had me in a whole lot of different. Had me 11th to Atlanta. It had me 16 to Tennessee. So, I was pretty much, I knew I was going to be 8 to 16.
I get the feeling both Ward and Sanders are going to crush the interview process.
Ward especially, from what I've heard.
Everything you hear about the guy sounds like it's
Work
conducive.
ethic,
Yeah, absolutely. The question is how many teams are going to be put off by, Shador and Dion and the whole thing.
I think that's what like even the callers today is. It's the primetime stuff.
Yeah.
And I think
I think it's overblown.
I agree too. Because it was even in 80, whatever year that he was drafted, 88? Was he drafted?
Dion?
Yeah. Whatever year that was, he drafted. It was kind of the thing. He's a prima donna. It's primetime. It was his persona. But
89.
Can I say something? This team needs some prima donna. This team needs some attitudes with some edge to it. This team hasn't had edge in a long time.
Confidence, there's a swagger to it.
Yeah.
Now, I think some people take it as a cockiness.
Right.
But Dion, he's one of the best, if not the best corner to ever play the game.
Right.
He went out there and proved that. And he had this persona. He was like selling himself. I'm the best player in this draft. You better get me. I'm going to prove, you know what I mean? And I think that is what is turning people off by it. But my argument is this too, and I get that. I totally do, especially in a team game. But do you want your quarterback unsure of himself?
Right.
Yeah, give me the
and he doesn't ride the high. Neither of these guys, I from what I have read, as I know that Don has been to a couple Cam Ward games. Neither of these guys get rattled.
Yeah.
They don't ride the highs and the lows like Will Levis did.
Yeah.
These guys are even keel no matter what's going on. They're cool as ice. And that's what you really need, but they are also confident in themselves.
Yeah.
So they I get that it's maybe presented in different ways, but when it comes down to play on the field as far as cockiness, confidence, and that cool, calm collective, they're the same.
Yeah,
it just looks differently. It's presented differently, and I think I think if Shadur's last name was not Sanders, we'd be talking about totally different.
No,
things.
I agree. Here's the difference between the two for me, just from the eye test. I see Sanders doing more finger pointing at players making mistakes and messing up his throw or whatever. Not a lot. I've seen it several times. A couple, not a lot. No, so please don't understand. I'm not saying he's like that, but I see Cam as more like that LeBron. Like, don't worry about it. I got you. Rally the guy. He's more of the rally the troops type guy, and that's where I say he has a lot of familiarity to me to McNair. Because Mac, I'm going to throw myself under the bus. I've dropped the ball before, and then I didn't even go back to the huddle. He was like, he came right back to me next play. I made the catch. You know what I mean? But that's kind of the personality of Mac. I got you. Don't worry about it. Yeah, we all make mistakes. That's kind of Mac's mentality. And I think Cam Ward kind of, again, he's reminiscent to Mac a little bit to me. But again, Mac benefited from sitting behind Chandler and learning the ropes a little bit too. And then having two veterans on. We had Dave Craig my rookie year, and then Neil O'Donnell for the next 4 years. So he had some established veterans who had played a lot of football in here that can be in his ear and help him along that way too.
And let's say that Brady notorious for calling out mistakes, whether you consider that finger pointing or not. But remember when he was here for the Buccaneers at open practice, he's yelling at his receivers and all that kind of stuff. Was that not the Buccaneers?
They went to Tampa.
Oh, they went to Tampa. That's right.
Yes, he was here with New England.
He was pointing at people doing it wrong, doing this and that. Not to say that's the same thing that Shadur is doing, but just want to say this. He's been training with Tom Brady in the offseason.
Yeah. And I say, you don't see a lot of it, and I get it. A lot of it, we got to get on the same page, so I'm coaching you up, so to speak, too. But I think I have not seen that on the field from Cam Ward at all.
Titans Talkback is presented by Lee Company. All you need, visit them online at leecompany.com. When we come back, we take the last of your phone calls and we look ahead to what's next for the Tennessee Titans, of course, the NFL Draft. It's Titans Talkback on 104.5 The Zone. The 2024 regular season is in the books for the Tennessee Titans. 3-14, the final record after a 23-14 loss to the Texans. Titans will be picking number 1 in the NFL Draft coming up in a few months. We are wrapping things up with you on Titans Talkback, presented by Lee Company. Dr. Kevin Dyson, Zach Lyons, Lucas Panzica. A couple more phone calls to get to, also on 104.5 The Zone TV, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch on the F&M Bank chat. Let's hear from Eddie up next. Hey, Eddie.
Hey, how y'all doing?
Great.
Hey, I think the Titans have the same problem as the Dallas Cowboys had for the last 30 years or so. And I'd like to see if Dr. Dyson would like to would answer would know that the answer to that question, because I can tell you if he doesn't.
What do you think is the, what'd you say, last like 50 years or 30 years or something, Eddie?
Oh, he's gone.
Oh,
dropped off.
I think he was alluding to ownership because he was talking about the Dallas Cowboys, and so.
Well, again, I'm coming from an organization where he was hands-on, but he wasn't hands-on. Whereas Dallas, I think the consensus would be he's too much hands-on, especially now as he's getting older in age and he needs to relinquish some of that decision-making power. As far as the organization here, it's if you're grading it off of Super Bowls, well, you got to give them a low grade because we've only been to one, but they've only been to one as a franchise is in its totality. So comparative, so you look at what the Chiefs have done, people like the Niners, Buffalo hasn't been to one since the 90s either, but who else I'm thinking about? Philadelphia has been the most. The Steelers. These are some of the benchmark franchises, and I think that's a good point to bringing it up. What are they doing that everybody else is not doing? Because they have been to Super Bowl at the Super Bowl, whether it be 4 or 5, but it's been in recent memory for a lot of these. Even the Bears have been in Super Bowl in recent memory.
Yep. I mean, that was the Rex Grossman year. If you can make it to the Super Bowl with Rex Grossman, you can do anything in the
NFL. Kendrick in Nashville is the last call of the season on Titans Talkback. Kendrick, let's finish strong.
Hey, how you guys doing?
What's up, man?
Dr. Dyson, happy J5 to you.
I thought that was you. Happy J5, brother.
Yes, sir. Hey, just a quick question. How do we compare Shadur and Dion to Archie and Peyton in that scenario of just getting the son to the right team to really push through the talent that's there?
Thanks, Kendrick.
I think he means Eli.
Eli. Yeah.
I think there will be some kind of influence on that. I think you can't ignore it. I think because he's been vocal and pushing it out there. But I think that's more promotion from Dion than anything else, trying to promote his son. And he has belief in his son. He believes his son's the best player in the draft. Well, he might think that Hunter's the best player in the draft, but of course.
Right.
And he might be.
Yeah. Of course, quarterbacks are going to get the premium.
Sure.
So,
well, he has said he's going to be involved, but he's going to do it internally.
Yeah.
Right.
And not publicly, like most would probably assume he would want to do it. And same goes for Travis Hunter, too.
Yeah.
That he wants to be involved in that as well.
Don't fall for those accounts by Wes Steinberg, right, Jackson? no Wes Steinberg fake accounts.
Did Jackson get got?
Yeah.
Jackson Williams, did you
I
get?
sent it to you, buddy, remember?
Okay. Wesley Steinberg, yes.
Yeah.
Some of these troll fake accounts, they're very good at pretending to be real and or not. So.
But I look at it like this. He's going to do what any father would do that has any kind of clout experience in the NFL. He's going to make sure that his son's taken care of.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, like, you've been in the NFL, you know how the business works. If your son was going into the NFL, you'd be doing the same thing, making sure that he's going to a place where he's going to be benefit.
Yeah, I bet you if it was the Browns, and I'm no diss on the Browns, but I'm going to. If it's the Browns at that second pick, I bet you he says something.
I would.
I bet you he said something.
I mean, I would in his shoes. I would do the same. Probably, maybe for the Giants, I would do the same. But like, I just don't blame him. I mean,
the market
again,
of the Giants, the money potential, he'd be fine with it. Cleveland's a smaller market, and with everything that's transpired there, they haven't won. Really, they haven't won since the '80s, back with Ernest Biner and Mack and Bernie Kosar. And so, me personally, I think that would be so. If he's going to say something, that'd be one. Because, and then the reason why I don't say the Giants is because his son had them dang shoes when they thought that might be the one pick overall.
That's right. Well,
yeah, maybe. Those could also be Oilers colors or Titans colors, old school Titans colors.
That's true. But he had the logo on there. But but he hasn't said a ill thing about this organization. He hasn't said anything about the Browns organization, but he did say there are some teams that he would not be favored if his son going to. And I'm making an assumption. Yeah, just the dysfunction of the Browns that would, and they potentially could be there for him.
Like we said, he's gonna be involved, but more internally than anything. Last thing we do on Titans Talkback each and every year, all season long. This is, of course, the last one of the 2024 season, is the Look Ahead, presented by Eurofix. As I remind you, Eurofix repairs everything European that you drive and below dealer pricing. ASC-certified technicians, a local company that has serviced Middle Tennessee for over 2 decades. Visit eurofixonline.com. Up next for the Tennessee Titans, the 2025 NFL Draft happening April 24th through 26th in Green Bay, Wisconsin. This year, the Titans have the number 1 overall pick, which means they have the number 1 pick in every round except the third because of that trade with L'Jarius Sneed. Chiefs are probably pretty happy about that. Titans will have 8 picks in total. One more look at Tankathon as the late afternoon slate wraps up. Titans 1, Cleveland 2, Giants 3, Patriots 4, Jacksonville 5, Vegas 6, Jets 7, although the Jets are still in progress. They've not gone final, up 5 with 3 minutes to go against the Dolphins. So that's next. Guys, in the next few months, going to be all about who they take. Is it a quarterback? Do they trade back? So many different directions that they can go in. So it's going to be a fun discussion for a while. 8 total picks in the 2025 NFL Draft.
Yeah, I'm excited. I love it because the Senior Bowl's coming up. That's like the first big trip. I love Senior Bowl. It's awesome. So we got Senior Bowl coming up.
February 1st.
Yeah, February 1st. But the week leading to practices is a little bit more important than the game. But, I mean, this particular game is going to have, like, Jackson Dart, Jalen Milroe. Don't forget, also at the Hula Bowls, my guy from Memphis, Seth Hennigan, who just got invited over there. And sometimes those quarterbacks and players get invited over to Senior Bowl as well.
After the fact, yep.
So, like, you get Senior Bowl, then you got Combine, then you got free agency, then you got the draft. It's like the NFL news cycle for me does not stop. I soak it all up. Mm-hmm. I love talking about it. It's awesome. I can't wait.
I'm excited to see
I can't wait to bore Blaine every day.
And you got between now and March 1st when the offseason programming begins, and we'll see what kind of salary cap casualties there are. I think in itself in the draft, having 8 picks is good. At that third, we'll see how much that hurts you, if it does at all, not having a third-round pick. But do you get that back if you're able to, meaning maybe not third for Levis, but another draft pick for Levis?
Well, also look at it like this. All these people are mad that, about trading away a third-round pick. What's more likely? Your third-round pick turns into an all-pro player, or L'Jarius Sneed, who was an all-pro player, turns into an all-pro player?
Yeah. I don't think anybody argued that trade in the beginning.
No. And there are probably some out there, but now, you got to look, even at the time, but you got to look at it like this.
Yeah.
That when this draft class is done, you just slot L'Jarius Sneed in the third round. Yeah. He's part of this draft class.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. So, it's going to be fun. I think it'd be interesting to see again. You got to get through the first hurdle first. Was management do? Was ownership do with leadership as far as GM, head coach? Once that's solidified, what's next? Assistant coaches, is everybody there? What's next after that? Quarterback and free agency and things of that nature. And so before you even get to the draft in April, there's so many different dominoes have to fall in place. And again, he just mentioned one towards the end here with Carr. I think there's going to be some players that are going to be intriguing that are coming in for visits. I believe if Carr's there, he's going to come in. I think if Fields is there, he's going to come in. I think if Cousins is there, I think they bring him in. I think they're going to bring these guys in and have conversations on them and see which guy they want. And so at quarterback, and then go through the whole process. I don't think either one of the 2 quarterbacks played in Senior Bowl. Are they?
Which ones?
Ward or Sanders?
No, Sanders East-West Shrine Bowl. Cam Ward has not committed to a All-Star circuit.
Well, Senior Bowl practices will be the last week of January. Combine starts the last week of February. The new league year starts March 12th. That's when free agency officially begins. And then, of course, the NFL Draft, April 24th, 2025, and the Tennessee Titans are on the clock. It's been, hasn't been a fun season, but always enjoy working with these guys, Dr. Kevin Dyson and Zach Lyons. For our producer, Jackson Williams, appreciate you guys being with us all season long. As I remind you, the Titans radio coverage is produced by Philip Noel and Brad Willis. The studio producer is Joseph Bonanno. Promotions director is Rich Ferris. Director of sales, Hunter Rice. General manager, Allison Warren. Operations manager, Paul Mason. Executive producer, Rhett Bryant. We'll be talking about this all week on 104.5 The Zone, and we'll talk to you guys then. I'm Lucas Panzica saying goodnight. Sunday Night Football on Westwood One coming up next.